Friday. I'm Derrick Day, and he is.
And I am Aaron Tomlinson. I am relaxing tonight, Derek. I'm taking it easy in my recliner, and so
Yeah. Well, you look comfortable. You look
yeah,
relaxed.
yeah. I got. The only thing is I got to like reach up for my drink here, but I got so flavored whiskey is my thing, I guess, for a while. So this is last week it was a chocolate whiskey. So this week it is mango habanero.
I started to buy that today. I went to the liquor store after work, and I was looking for the chocolate whiskey. They
Yeah,
didn't have it, but they ordered it for me. It'll be in on Tuesday,
awesome.
so I got that. And
I
then
want to
they
get
had
your reviews.
the salted caramel. I started to
Yeah.
get that, and then they had like some pecan infused whiskey.
Mm.
And I started to get that, but I said, no, I'm going to kind of stick with some basics. But when the chocolate whiskey comes, I'm going to get that. So,
Yeah, I can't wait to hear your review, your reviews on that one. I already polished that bottle off, so that's how good that bottle is.
so for tonight, it's just the whiskey sour with Bulleit bourbon.
All right.
So,
So what are we going to
yeah.
talk about tonight, Derek?
Well, actually, this is your subject, so I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to you
Yeah,
to set it up, and then I'll follow
yeah,
up.
yeah. So I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Brian Scott. Um, he runs a YouTube channel and some podcasts, and really a brand called The Reality Revolution. He's written a book. Just one of the most genuine, nicest guys on the planet, really. And he did a online reality con, which is really cool. And their topic was coming into large sums of money. And it was, he's really into Neville Goddard, and he's into all the success authors, Napoleon Hill and uh, Orison Swett Martin, and um, yeah, I can't even think of everybody right now. Brian Tracy, Tony
Mhm.
Robbins.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and this guy has mastered success principles. He really has, and he's such a he lays them out so well. And so he did the first session this morning. I just give him a little shout out, but he did the first session this morning, and he was talking about how our job in life is to be happy, to make ourselves happy,
Yep.
and what's the role of money and happiness, and how does that balance with the rest of our lives. And it was so good. He laid out, success principles. I've read a lot of those same authors for years, and he just laid out these success principles in such a brilliant way. Really, really motivated me. So that was part of why I wanted to talk about this tonight. So I just kind of floated the idea to you. Hold on one second.
Uh-huh.
Huh? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, make sure you let Josiah know you did that for him. All right, that's awesome. Me, sorry, sudden interruption there.
Real
Um,
quick before you go on,
yeah,
I have this heater running in my office. Can you hear the fan?
I cannot.
Good. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, I can hear mine now, but that's not my fan. That's just my heater because we're getting dumped on in Colorado, and it's
Oh
like
boy.
90 degrees outside. So here's winter finally. Um, but so I floated the idea to you about talking about success and money, and how do we
Mhm.
relate to those things? How do those things relate to each other, and what stands in our way? This is kind of where I'm thinking anyway, Derek, and it can go any way you want to take it too. But uh, what prevents us from taking the steps that we need to take to have success and or money? How do the two relate to each other? So I'll just throw out a lot. I got this hair sticking out right here.
Yeah.
How do the two relate to each other? But also, what I was thinking about was, as I'm listening to this thing today, I'm getting in touch with stuff inside of me that has prevented me from taking action. And so one of the things I did was I sat down and I made a list of excuses. Like,
Mm.
what is my list of excuses? Why haven't I taken more action on the things that are in my heart to do that I believe will make me successful, happy, happier? I'm a happy guy,
Yeah.
uh, and more money. Um, and then what blocks that? And so for me, I had to start with excuses. So I just rattled off, what's my list of excuses? and I think that's a good place to start. So with that, I'll kick it back to you.
Well, you know what? I'm with you. And that's something I need to do is compile a list of excuses, because one of the problems that I have is that I think that I have a bad habit of conflating excuses with reasons,
Ah,
right? And so the reality is that you can find the time to do whatever it is that you want to do if you really want to do it. And part of the reason why I think a lot of us don't experience the success that we want, and you talked about the willingness to do something. Um, I forget who it is that this quote is attributable to, but it said that success takes doing things that others will
right,
not do to have the things that others cannot have.
right.
And one of the things about this, like here, let me tell you this. There's this book that I read. It's called Neuro Wisdom. That's really, really good. But they cited a study in this book that said that money does indeed buy happiness, because when you look at it, said the happiest people in the world are people that make over $500,000 a year or have more than $1 million in net worth. And and I thought about that, because I used to always say, well, money doesn't buy happiness, and it doesn't. I don't think that it really buys happiness. What money does, money buys more a better, or it buys you more control over your time.
Yeah.
And time is really, at the end of the day, the most important currency. So all of that I say that I say to say is that we often conflate success with money, but money is not the arbiter of success. I think that there is a relationship between money and happiness, but you can be successful without being wealthy. And like I was saying to you in the green room, that by every measurable metric, I'm successful.
Mm-hmm.
I have a great career. Uh, the money that I make to a lot of people would seem somewhat obscene.
Mm-hmm.
I have a beautiful home, beautiful wife, handsome sons, beautiful grandchild. Um, Life is good, but all of this is not this. These are the trappings, or the things that success has afforded. But some of the things that I've done in my life, I've helped a lot of people. And when you mentioned this as a subject, I thought that this was really great, because I can tell you that there are at least 15 people who I've helped attain six-figure incomes,
Mm.
and a couple of people that I've helped become millionaires.
Mm-hmm.
And these are things, it's what you've done to help others. I think that is the largest measure of success. Again, when you have a career where you're like a known quantity, in other words, somebody can go on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and find out about what I do, or maybe what you do, and find out what our career trajectory has been, and the contributions that we made, and all of that. That's a measure of success. Who I've helped, that's a measure of success. How I've raised my kids, that's a measure of success. uh, Having a successful marriage, that is a measure of success. All of these things are measures of success, and none of them have anything to do with money. So the one thing that I would say before I kick it back to you
Sure.
is that we need to decouple what we think about the relationship between money and success.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who have a lot of money,
Right.
who have attained great wealth, and you would say, okay, this person looks successful, but they've left a trail of bodies in their wake. That their whole life has been an exercise in scorched earth. And and it's funny, like in the entertainment industry, you'll see a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of that. Somebody who has made their way to the top at the expense of many others. And that's not success. You might have the trappings of success that make you look like you're successful, but if you look at it from a metric standpoint, that you can say that that person, even though they're tremendously wealthy, that they're an abject failure.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll kick it back to you on that.
Yeah. That immediately takes my mind back to our conversation with our friend Sean Rivera.
Yeah.
And some of the things he said, I still go back to because he's lived the highly successful, famous life. He's lived. Was he from Detroit too? Was he?
No, he's from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, yeah.
Yeah.
But living by the subway or whatever. I remember him telling that story.
Yeah.
Basically, a classic sort of rags to riches, and then now kind of finding that middle ground.
Yeah.
And I think if you were to ask him, I think he kind of indicated this from the things he said. I could infer this. I can't remember if he actually said this, but I think he's probably happier now doing what he's doing than when he was a celebrity, when he was being nominated for Grammys and things like that. And so I think, as I'm thinking about this stuff, and I'm in transition in my life still from, ministry and the stuff I was doing before. Okay. No, it's okay, buddy. It's just the two of us tonight, so we're bachelors.
Okay.
So Josiah and Julie are out, but I as I think about this, prioritizing happiness and what's going to make you happy, I think is the most important thing. So, for example, if we say money buys happiness, and I do agree, there's 100% agree, there's a correlation between being able to purchase goods and services, let's just put it that way, and being happy. And obviously, if you are stressed out, can barely make ends meet, it's going to be hard to do the things that you need to do that are going to enhance your own happiness. On the flip side of that, you could be a corporate lawyer who's working working 80, 90 hours a week in court all the time, going through paperwork. You could be, I'm going to pick on doctors and lawyers because there's I think, false belief out there that they're the wealthy and successful.
Yeah.
You're right.
Good point.
You can work 2 years on a lawsuit and have to win the lawsuit to get paid. And you're just grinding it. You're going through law books and court cases and things like that. You might make a lot of money at the end of the day, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're happy pouring through all that stuff. Or you could be a doctor and you could be burned out with human suffering, or working long hours and not seeing your family. You could be a CEO of a company and grinding for the stockholders, and you'd be like Elon Musk sleeping at Twitter headquarters, getting roasted by his own employees. I don't know if you saw that, but that was crazy. So my point is, we could be doing a lot of stuff to make money,
Yep.
but that's not necessarily that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing what makes you happy. And so by prioritizing, by understanding what's important to you, I think that's a key to finding happiness. What's important to you, and being able to organize what's important to you. Is
Yep.
it contribution, like you said? I'm happy because I feel good because I've helped people raise their incomes and raise their net worth and things
Mm.
like that. That makes me feel good. Um, is it contribution? Is it love and connection? You know, I want to be around my kids. I want to be. I mean, for me, like my priorities shifted somewhere in my mid 40s, where I was, doing all this stuff, traveling, doing all this stuff in ministry, and I wasn't happy,
Yeah.
and I wasn't getting to watch my kids grow up, and so even in the transition, other business opportunities that I could take advantage of. Um, but it's going to require what's it going to require of me, right? And
Yep.
so looking, what is this going to require of me, and is this going to take me away from these years with my sons that I'll never get back?
Right.
um, and then ultimately, is that going to make me happy? And so finding that balance between success, money, and happiness, I think at the end of the day, prioritizing our happiness, and that's going to be different for everybody because everybody has different levels in those areas that I mentioned. Some people are never going to be able to be happy if they don't have certainty. For some people, just working in a company, making sure that you have a paycheck that comes in, that you know what to expect the next day, that you have a paycheck coming in, that you have order in your life. Uh, if you don't have that, if there's too much uncertainty, there's too much risk or too much change, you're going to be anxious. And if you're anxious, you're not going to be happy. So we really have to figure out what makes us tick, and we need to quit value judging each other
Hmm.
and say, well, and that's where, if we, if we want to go after religion again, this is where religion is so bad because it fits everybody into this box and says
Yep.
these particular, like obviously in religious circles, Christian circles, many spiritual circles, well, contributing, helping other people, that's what's going to make you happy. I have an uncle that doesn't want to give a damn thing to anybody, but he loves his freedom, and
Mm.
he's made enough passive income and whatever that, and he's. I remember he told me last time I saw him at a family reunion. He told me, he said, "I love my life." He said, I wake up in the morning, and I think, what am I going to do today?" So he prioritizes his freedom, and he wants change. He doesn't want that certainty. He wants adventure in his life, and he's made enough money and is at a place in his life that he can do that, right?
Yeah.
So I can't judge him and say what a selfish bastard that person is, but man, Derrick's really awesome because he's,
Oh, that's a good
or I'm
point.
really awesome because I spend my day helping hurting people, and I love it. I absolutely love doing that. So that makes me happy,
Yep.
and it's one of the reasons I do it. It doesn't make me a lot of money, but right now where I'm at in my life, I'm good. I can buy the goods and services that I want. I've got enough security for my family. I can do the things I want to do. I don't have to look at my bank account to make sure that we're going to make it this month. And also, I'm not out on the road traveling or at the
Hmm.
hospital at 2 o'clock in the morning, or doing funerals. I hated doing funerals. I hated doing
Yeah.
weddings. So anyway, I've kind of got running off at the mouth there, but that's where my thinking is with this.
Well, this is something that or it begs a consideration. What is happiness? And happiness is subjective,
Yep.
and it's also very nebulous, right? Because it varies from person to person. Fuck, it even varies from you to you, depending on the moment.
Yep.
Because I think about things like I tell my sons, don't trade short term happiness for long term regret.
Mm.
And sometimes we'll do something because this makes me feel good in the moment. And you and I, we've talked about this, about mindfulness, and why mindfulness is an important thing, being in the moment. But we've also talked about how your past, you're still in your past, even when you moved into the present. That part of you is still there. You still exist in that space. And the decisions of that past and this present are going to dictate what the future is. And so a lot of times, and I'm going to use myself as an example, because in 1995 I got exposed to a technology paradigm. And this technology paradigm changed the trajectory of my entire life, because it set me in a position where, as long as I was able to keep up with the changes within this paradigm, I was going to be in the, say, top 10% of wage earners. And so what I did when I started making that money, because when I first started making this kind of money, I was single, no responsibilities.
Right.
And so I did a lot of dumb things. It's like, if I wanted to get on a plane and go to London for the weekend, I did it. If I wanted to buy a hot car, I'd get it. If I wanted to buy a piece of designer clothing or a piece of jewelry or whatever, it's like I bought Rolex watches and things like that. And all of that's cool, except, when you go back and do an accounting assessment. And I'm not just talking about the money you spent, but what could you have done with the time and the resources that you had?
Yeah.
And then you say, damn, I kind of squandered that, or I kind of pissed on that. And then you immediately, you're dealing with regret, because you're like, wow, I could have done this, I could have invested this, or I could have spent time doing this. And so happiness, we need to first look within and try to find what happiness means to me, right? And this is where I am now, like, because I get in trouble with the religious crowd, because they'll say, oh, well, you just believe that people can do whatever they want to do. And I say, yeah, I believe that you can and you should do exactly what you want to do, whatever it is that makes you happy, insofar as it does not harm anyone else.
Yeah.
And what, when like for example, if you're sleeping around, right? And I don't have any objections to sexual freedom. Can I get a credit card? Yeah. Hang on for a second.
Yeah, no problem.
What are you ordering?
No, I'm not getting. We're buying the tickets.
Oh, Ducey has the orange card.
I can't find it. He told me it was on his door.
I'm gonna jump in real quick, Derrick, and I'm just gonna piggyback off that.
Yeah.
Except I lost my train of thought. Oh, well, one of the things I was thinking as you were talking is that time is probably our most precious resource, because we're all like, it's not renewable, right? Like, we don't get to go back. And so you're talking about, living in the moment with respect to your future self. Never sacrifice. I love what you said. Never sacrifice short-term happiness or gain
for long-term regret.
Long-term regret. Yeah. I love that. And I was just thinking about that. Like, as you get older, as you know, your health becomes more important, and health is tied directly to the time that you have. I mean, there's a lot about health we can't control. You can't control if you get cancer. You can't control if you catch some communicable disease, or
Yeah.
there's a lot we can control. There's a lot that we can influence. And we have a tendency, I think, to put health on the back burner without realizing that health is connected to longevity, and longevity is
And happiness.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely 100%. And so I think just being able to think through these different issues and talk through these different issues about our lives, we can improve our lives. Um, because a lot of people approach life with no strategy, no forethought, no really deep thinking about it, stuff like that.
Yep. And that's another thing too. I taught my kids how to play chess
Yeah.
at an early age.
Yeah.
And the reason and they used to ask me, well, why do we have to do this? I said, because it teaches you to think ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, 2 moves ahead, 3 moves ahead, 5 moves ahead. The more moves that you can plan ahead, the further ahead you're going to be in the game. You know, and so this is another thing too. You were talking about this, like being strategic, and this is a maxim that I live by, and y'all can write this down because this is the game for free. That you will never get an intentional result from accidental effort.
Mm.
You can throw eggs at a wall, and it may take you billions of years before you produce something akin to the Mona Lisa. But if you start off with a pattern and you have a strategic approach, and then you formulate the tactics to express that strategy,
Mm-hmm.
then you might be able to produce a masterpiece. But nobody produces a masterpiece by accident. That just doesn't happen. And
Right.
and so one of the things with happiness, another conclusion that I've come to in life is that you will never be accidentally happy.
Mm.
You'll never be accidentally happy. You might stumble into something that might give you some gratification for a moment, but if you're talking about real happiness, where you're just exuberant, you're at peace, you're free, that requires intent.
Mm-hmm.
Let me make a quick cliche here, that intent brings content, or
Mm.
contentedness.
Yeah.
If you're not, so you had mentioned that you had went to this seminar
Mm-hmm.
that your friend gave, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was talking about abundance. Nobody, and I mean nobody, speaks about abundance from an accidental standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That if you just, and this is the thing, this is one of the things that really bothered me about religion, is that it would tell you that all you have to do is like curry God's favor and be in the right place at the right time, and then
Right.
this favor would fall on you. And I think that being in the right place at the right time, because success occurs at the intersection of opportunity and preparedness, right? Being in the right place at the right time makes a difference. But if you're in the right place at the right time and you're unprepared, it means nothing.
Yeah.
So in order to, we talk about manifesting. We want to manifest abundance in our life. We want to manifest good relationships. We want to manifest success and peace and joy and harmony and all these other things. And we're meandering around, hoping and wishing,
Mm-hmm.
for this shit to just drop in our
Yeah.
lap.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it doesn't work that way. So here's the thing, right? You can work toward money. I'm a witness that like let me tell you a quick story. I was working. I was a Wang VS database administrator. Wang VS at that time was a hot technology, but it was on the way out. And nobody knows who Wang is anymore. But it was like a really big business computer company. I think they were like number three or number four. Actually, number four after there was IBM, uh, uh, IBM Digital, HP, and then Wang, right? And nobody remembers Wang. The other three are still around. But I was working a job, and I remember they were uncrating these Sun Spark workstations, and so the Sun Spark workstation was really cool because it had like a graphical user interface, kind of like the early Macs, but it was Unix under the hood, and it ran Oracle databases, which Oracle was this up and coming technology at the time. And so I was cool with the guy who managed that activity. And I said to him, I said, hey, listen, would you mind if I hung out after work and work with you guys, setting this thing up and learning about it? And I won't bill for this. I just want to hang out and learn it. And he's like, sure. He said, I can always use an extra set of hands. And if it's free, it's even better. Right. So I did that. And in doing that, I increased my value. And so the next job I got, I increased my salary 40%. And it was a steady, trajectory upward from there.
Sure.
So you can chase money, but money was not the thing, because at that time, my wife had died. I was I'm chasing money, but I don't really have a focus for it. So I'm good at getting the money, but I'm not really good at getting the happiness.
Yeah.
And I wasn't translating the money into happiness. It was just money. Making money became an end unto itself.
Right.
Right. So the thing that I'm saying to everybody that's watching and listening is that if you chase money, you'll find it. You'll absolutely find it. If you're diligent about chasing money, you'll find it. And if you're diligent about chasing happiness, you'll find it.
Yeah.
Assuming that your happiness is not at the expense of anyone else. But I can't stress this enough that when you were in this seminar and your friend was saying, hey, if you want abundance, you have to be intentional, strategic. You have to have a plan.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think about this, like, I'm going to say this one last thing and then I'll shut up. Like in the NFL, nowadays, coaches don't call situational plays. They have a script and they run this script for 20 plays at least, irrespective of what the situation is on the field, because their analytics, their data projections will say what the expected result of these plays or the scripted plays are. Now, once you get to the end of the script, now you can ad lib. Now you could take some chances. Now you can wing it a little bit. But you've gone in with this plan, and you say that no matter what, even I might be down 2 or 3 touchdowns, but I'm sticking to the plan because I know that what I've done to assemble the plan there's some thought, there's some intent behind this. And that's what we have to get to. It's like, and here's the thing: you don't want to live a scripted life, but you want to have scripts to to carry you through situations that take thought out of the equation. In other words, like in my business, we
Mhm.
talk a lot about automation, right? And the
Mhm.
key to automation is getting fingers off keyboards,
Mhm.
because fingers on keyboards is when mistakes happen.
Mhm.
But if I can script building a server, configuring a network, provisioning users, if I can script these things, now I can say, okay, that at least I have built a foundation for my business that didn't require me, that took human error out of the equation.
Mhm.
So anyway, that's where
So
I'll.
yeah, so I want to share because something keeps coming up in me, and it was happening this morning too, as you're talking. Um, so I'll just do it this way. So this was my experience today. So I'm listening to uh, my friend's presentation. Excellent, excellent presentation. I mean, Brian's just to me is one of the best communicators out there. Plus, he's got like this great voice, right? But uh, he's just such a great communicator of principles, and the guy's got like an eidetic memory where he can just hear something one time and he's got it right, so he can just pour out information. And I'll be honest with you, because I've read a lot of the same authors, I didn't learn a damn thing, Derrick. There was not one thing
Wow.
that he said that I did not already know, not a single thing. And I, but here's what happened to me, and maybe some people out there that are even listening to us and listening to this will relate to as we're talking. As he's talking, I'm getting so uncomfortable inside,
Mm.
and what we tend to do when we get uncomfortable is project,
Mm-hmm.
make excuses. We try to let ourselves off the hook,
Mm-hmm.
or we just ignore it. So you talked about mindfulness earlier. I decided to be mindful about it. And see, this is where I think real change can happen. I noticed the discomfort. I listened to the self-talk in my brain, and I really got in touch with it. I really explored it, because I've learned that that's where I can really do good work to make change. So in other words, some people listen to, so I got inspired, right? I didn't learn anything, but I got inspired, and there's
Mm-hmm.
value to that. We
Yep.
need people that inspire us. We need people that encourage us.
Yep.
We need people that kick us in the butt. You know what I mean? And so some people listen to what we're talking about, or listening to principles, something where they're talking about principles of success. I mean, it's not a real big secret. They've been teaching success principles, basically the same thing, for at least a century and a half, right?
Yep.
And going back to some of these, uh, Dale Carnegie
Yeah.
and Earl Nightingale,
Earl Nightingale. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like I mentioned earlier, Napoleon Hill. Like, it's not a secret. Set goals, strategy, like you said earlier, put in the effort that no one's willing to do, so you can have what few are willing to have, or what few have. You said it much more eloquently than I did. But I had to get in touch with what's this discomfort about. Some of it's guilt. I know these things and I haven't really done anything with it. Some of it's shame. He's talking about his success stories. How come I haven't had that success? Well, I haven't had that success because I haven't done what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm dunking on myself. Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And
Did that work?
and I'll be honest with you, money is an uncomfortable topic for me, and I think it is for a lot of people. And there's several reasons for that. There's reasons in my own personal history, my background, my upbringing, my teenage years, my religious programming,
Mm-hmm.
that the love of money is the root of all evil. You're going to feel guilty for being successful.
Yeah.
Or having money, or if you have money, you got to use it to have it in order to give,
Spread
and
the
in order to
gospel.
advance the gospel. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
So all that stuff's getting stirred up inside of me, Derrick. And I went through a season early on in my life when I first started ministry that I hated goal setting, man. I hated those meetings.
Hmm.
Oh, what's your 5-year plan? Fuck you. I don't have a 5-year plan. I know I should have a 5-year plan. And this is what I say to your 5-year plan. But that was rooted in a lack of self-confidence. That was rooted in trauma from my childhood. That was rooted in my own need for certainty. I talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
That was rooted in my own fear of failure. What happens if I plan and I don't succeed? What happens if I put forth all this effort and all this time? And like people have told me, like I'll tell you something about myself that I should say for the after conversation, but I'm gonna just put it out there anyway.
Okay.
My dream as a child was to be an author.
Wow.
When I was, I was writing stories phonetically as soon as I learned to write.
Hmm.
I still have some of them that my mom kept, right? I had subscriptions, if you can believe this, to a magazine called Writer's World.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then there was another one back in the 80s.
Yep. I remember that. I was a subscriber to that. Yep.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
I sent short stories to magazines like Boy's Life, and when I'm 14 years old, I'm writing a story and sending a self-addressed stamped envelope on the back of Writer's World to the
Yep.
address of Boy's Life, trying to get my stories published. And I dreamed of being like Stephen King or something like that was my life's dream. And then things just went differently for me, and I gave up on it. I had a lot of encouragement. I won a lot of writing contests. My freshman English professor told me I was the most gifted creative writer that they'd ever come across in all their years of teaching, was trying to encourage me to go down that road. And it got derailed. For at least 20 years, yourself included, I've had people tell me that I need to write a book.
Yeah.
And I will tell you right now, the reason now that I have not put forth the effort to write a book, this is where I was going through my list of excuses. But at the end of the day, I'm going to write it. This is what I think in my mind, Derrick. I'm going to be honest with you. And like I said, I should have saved this for after. But I think this will help somebody. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to get boxes full of, and I understand publishing's changed, but this is still what's in my mind. I'm going to get boxes full of this book that I had to self-publish, because that's how you have to do it today. And it's going to sit there because I don't have the marketing. I don't have the notoriety. You see the excuses?
Mm-hmm.
So then I shut down and I don't take action on something that's been in me since I was a child. And so my point is, we can hear this stuff that you and I are talking about. I could hear the stuff that Brian was talking about, and I could do nothing with it. I could get inspired. Some people just get inspired, right? Or I could sit there with all this angst.
Yep.
And suppress it. But I realized I got to listen to this, because this is my problem. This is my problem. And that's why immediately after that session, I sat down and wrote my list of excuses, because that's what I was hearing in my head.
Yeah.
I had to write my shame, my guilt. Oh, I know all this stuff, but I haven't done anything with it. Why are other people more disciplined, more dedicated, more whatever? All the bullshit, right?
Yep.
Like I had to bring it to the surface. I had to bring it to speech in a certain way. I guess I'm kind of doing that right now too. Because that's what's really preventing me from being happy. That's what's really preventing me from being successful. It isn't all the stuff out here that I can't control. It isn't, Derrick, it isn't that I'm going to write a book and have boxes of books just sitting there and lose money on it and think that was a complete waste of time and effort. That's not my problem.
Yeah.
My problem is that's what I'm forecasting.
Yeah.
At a subconscious level. But if I didn't take the time to listen to my subconscious, I wouldn't even know that stuff was there. And that's how most people do.
Yeah.
So before you can even sit down and apply success principles, before you can even sit down and have intention, before you can even sit down and make a plan, before you can have accountability partners and that kind of thing, you got to get in touch with your own bullshit.
Yep.
And figure out what's the bullshit, what's the stories, what's the narratives, and then where does this stuff come from? I could tell you, and not that anybody wants this in my therapy session. I can tell you exactly where it comes from in my life. But that's good because now it's in consciousness. Now it's in the light. Now I can address it and deal with it. So I just wanted to address that. Like, there are a lot of people out there that will hear talks about health, brought up health earlier. Oh, I like shit and I don't exercise. Oh my God, I feel so guilty. And then they just brush it off. Success, contribution, take any one of those things. Relationships, love and connection. Oh my God. I hated going to marriage conferences. I hated hearing you know what I'm saying? Because it would just stir all that stuff up in me. And so I guess what I'm saying is, if you're out there and listening and this is stirring that kind of stuff up in you, let it get stirred up in you and pay attention to it and put it out there and be honest with yourself. Now, if you want to stay there, that's fine. But at least you're owning it.
Right. You're being intellectually honest about it.
Yeah. So got diarrhea at the mouth again there.
No, man, that's all good stuff. And here I want to say something that hopefully this will help you as well as everybody else is listening, because we are all at some point in time in our life recipients of something challenging. You know, somebody's going to say something to you that's going to challenge you. And the one thing that I love, and this is one of the things I love about you, is that, you know, when we talk, you'll say something that's challenging to me, but I understand your motivation, right? So I understand that this is said in love, that this is said with the intent of, you know, hey, let's take this to the next level, kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not everybody's like that. Not everybody has good intentions with their input,
right?
But you can respond to it in one of two ways. And see, in the past, Aaron, you were responding to it out of irritation.
Yeah.
Somebody says something and you say, "Oh, well, this is some bullshit," you know, or well, no, that doesn't apply to me. I can't do this. You know, you're thinking about these cases of books in your garage, kind of thing, and that's irritation. Basically, irritation. When you get irritated, you push back.
Yep.
You push back. You're trying to justify yourself. You're trying to redeem yourself from whatever it is this input is. And that, unfortunately, is how most of us react.
Yep.
But here is the other path. When you hear something that's challenging, be agitated. Because agitation leads to some positive reaction.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the agitation of the fuel air mixture by your spark plug forces the piston in your engine down and causes it to turn the crank and create power.
Mm-hmm.
That's agitation. You put your clothes in the washing machine and add a little bit of detergent or soap, and the action of the washing machine agitates your clothes, which loosens the dirt and gets it out of your clothes.
Mm-hmm.
When someone says something to you, it can either be something that causes you to believe in your own failure, or you can use it as propellant to get you escape velocity beyond what the criticism actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say to everybody out here is that you have to learn to identify or distinguish between agitation and irritation. And don't let shit irritate you so much.
Right.
But let it agitate you to create fuel for your success. Thomas Edison once said that his detractors were the fuel of his success.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, again, we can, what happens is that when you're irritated, the excuses come out. Oh, I don't have time, or I'm not that good, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna pick on a friend of mine. She's probably not watching, but she's an old Navy buddy of mine, and also in the realm of media. She's a Pulitzer nominated journalist and a best-selling author. Her books have been like in Oprah's book club, and her name is Karen Quinones Miller. And Karen was, she left Virginia. She was a beat reporter for the Virginia Pilot, and left and went to the Philadelphia Inquirer because it was a better job, bigger paper. And she went up there and she worked for a number of years, and she was covering the city beat. And she decided that she was going to sit down and write her novel.
Mm-hmm.
And the book is called Satin Doll. And she self-published it. And she had just bought this townhouse. So she's a single mom. She's raising her daughter. And so they have this townhouse in Philadelphia. And Karen basically cashed in her 401k to buy all of these books. And they sat in her garage for a minute until someone reviewed her book. And then all of a sudden, all of these books were gone. And now she's trying to figure out how to get some more. And that was her first bestseller.
Mm.
And she went on to write numerous other novels. And she even wrote a book that's a bestseller with the widow of Bumpy Johnson, who was a Harlem gangster.
Mm.
And this was a bestseller. And I think that if she hasn't been nominated for a Pulitzer for that, she'll be nominated for it because the book is that good.
Wow.
But the point is that when she was doing this, a lot of her peers were saying, why are you doing this? It's just you and your daughter. You don't have the means to, and everybody gave her every excuse as to why she shouldn't do this. But she didn't listen. And one of the things that I'm happy to say is that I told her that, hey, if you believe in your dream, you go for it. And you shut out those other voices. So again, what I'm saying to everybody that's watching is people are going to say things like, we were talking about this prior to the show, that I'm going to be a kinder, gentler atheist. I'm not going to go around, just dunking arbitrarily on Christianity because I can. I want to be. There were people that had said that I'm a nice guy. Jason Elam, Carl Forehand, they gave me some really, really wonderful, heartwarming compliments. And I said, something, I really am a nice guy. I'm not a dick by nature. Now I have don't get me wrong, I got the dick gene, and I can express that gene at will. But the thing that my theory was behind the things that I posted regarding religion and especially Christianity was that if I say it and it agitates you, then hey, mission accomplished. But The flip side of it is that I have to consider that it's going to irritate some, and that breakdown is probably somewhere asymptotically approaching 50-50. And that's not the odds that I like. I like to win. This is me personally. I like to win. I like to succeed. I like to say that here are the results of my actions. And see, that's another thing too, is that people will tell you, don't keep a scorecard. And whenever somebody says don't keep a scorecard, I say that's bullshit. Every time you have a success, you should write it down. You should chronicle that. And you should put it in a conspicuous place. Fuck, if you want to get a frame and frame it and say, this is a I'm crystallizing this moment of success and I'm putting it all over my fireplace. Do it. Because then you're saying, okay, now this is something that I can point to that I said I accomplished when I put some thinking, some words, and some action to. And what will happen is that when you start seeing the fruit, God, I could go on so many different. Okay, y'all know saffron, right? Saffron is the most expensive herb that you can buy, and it is literally worth more than gold by weight, right? But saffron, it takes a saffron plant 7 years to reach maturity. 7 years. That means that if you're planting saffron, you have to plan on a 7-year cycle of making sure these seedlings have the right amount of water, the right amount of sunlight, the right fertilizer, and all of this before you can reap the benefits of that. In other words, you are going to have to apply some time to your strategy. And time plus strategy is going to produce result. Now, here's the thing, is that sometimes it's going to produce a positive result and sometimes it's going to produce a negative result. Well, what you have to do is that when you start seeing negative return on your investment, then it's time to reevaluate what you're doing and maybe tweak the plan a little bit. And this is where a lot of us get messed up. And I know this is my story. I'll totally abandon a plan. I'll just throw it in the fire. Fuck it. You know, no. When in reality, all you had to do was tweak it.
Yeah.
And I remember this story, and this is where I'm going to stop here, is that when the first, everybody remembers Apollo 11 because they landed on the moon, but nobody remembers Apollo 10. Apollo 10 went to the moon. They just circled around it and came back home. But basically, that was the dress rehearsal, the trial run for Apollo 11. And it in many ways was more important than landing on the moon itself. Now, here's the thing, that on the way to the moon, the astronauts of Apollo 10 had to effect over 100 course corrections per minute.
Wow.
If they were off a half a degree on any of these calculations, on any of these corrections, they would have been lost in space.
Oh my goodness.
So the thing is that it's not the big sea change. It's not like, oh, well, it looks like we need to make a hard right turn toward Mars. No, that would have killed you. And that was always my thing, Aaron, is that I'm always making the left turn at Albuquerque. You know, ode to Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
And really that wasn't the thing. It's just, T.D. Jakes wrote a book called Reinvent Yourself. and I'll never forget. He says the small changes that have the biggest impact.
Yeah.
It's tweak your plan, but don't abandon your plan. I mean, if you have a good plan and you know that this is something that I'm expecting this result, man, I could, like I said, I could go so many directions with this. It's like grapes. If you plant grapes, it takes years to get to get a good crop of grapes to produce a good vintage that will produce some yield of wine.
Right.
But if you give up, if you just say, man, fuck it, I'm going to grow peaches instead of grapes, you might be cashing in on something really great.
Yep.
So be agitated, but not irritated, and be mindful of the small changes, that these small changes will yield the big results, that they'll give you the kind of results that you're looking for.
Yeah. Yep. I think on that note, we're right at an hour. Yep. Maybe we should go through our comments, huh?
Yeah, let's go through the comments.
So it looks like Ben and Daryl are figuring out how to connect. That's a good thing.
Yeah, well, I keep telling Daryl and Ben. I mean, whether they do a show together like you and I, or if they do something individually, it doesn't matter. They both have something so tremendous to say, either individually or collectively, that they need to have their own spot. I'm gonna keep banging that drum until they give in and do it.
Yeah.
But Ben says, we pick up what we put down and we receive what we give. Success and stinginess are at odds. But here's the thing. Tension in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's how tension is managed that determines whether or not it's destructive or constructive.
Mm-hmm.
Because just doing your hand like this requires agreement and disagreement in your body, right? There's antagonist and protagonist actions in your body. There are things in your body, like, for example, you have hydrochloric and sulfuric acid in your stomach, that if it gets outside your stomach, it'll kill you, but it's necessary to the breaking down of food and producing nutrients, right? So having adversity in and of itself is not a bad thing. It's like, again, I talked about car engines. A car engine is producing like several 100,000 explosions per minute.
Sure.
And they're violent. They're violent explosions that happen every minute. But it's like the exploding of the fuel, the cooling of the coolant, and the lubrication of the oil, and all of these, none of these things agree with each other, but they're all necessary to make the engine run.
Great point. Ben says, yeah, did you read this one already? I'm sorry. We pick up what we put down and receive what we give. Success and stinginess are at odds. I don't know if they're at odds, but I know one thing for sure. 'Tis the season. It will get you a visit from three spirits on Christmas Eve. Sorry, couldn't resist.
Yeah, I want to give another shout out. A friend of mine, Tony Sharp, he said, happiness equals contentment equals happiness. And I wanted to call that out because Tony Sharp is one of my oldest friends. I've known Tony, I don't know, 55 years.
Wow.
55 years. I mean, consistent friendship, not just I met him then and we reconnected on Facebook. I'm talking about consistent friendship over time.
Ben says, do no harm and take no shit. That could be a, I don't know, magnet you put on your refrigerator or something.
Yeah, I made a meme about that. It had a yin and a yang. That one said do no harm, and the other one said take no shit.
That's funny.
RL Fire says, if you believe in immortality, then time is meaningless. Well, you know what? I would agree with that. However, in our finite bodies that occupy finite time, it does matter. Time does matter. Does it matter eternally? And then I'd say no because I like to dunk on religion, but you know,
Right. But this is your test.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, what else? Let's see. RL Fire also said, and so is everything else because nothing ever needs to happen when it actually happens because you have forever to get around to it. Okay, and if you subscribe to that eternal model where time is not a factor, then yes. But if you acknowledge the finiteness of time and our occupation of it in this particular realm, it does matter.
mhm.
And Ben says prodigies are the exception and not the rule. I agree with that.
Yeah, I do too.
RL Fire, man, he says universally, I'm thinking ahead. I'm miserable and ready to call it a wrap. Dude, don't call it a wrap. I read your stuff. I read your blog posts and I see your content on Facebook. And dude, you are a contributor to humanity.
I
So
agree.
uh,
Yeah,
so
I read his stuff too when I'm on. I haven't been on much lately, I'll be honest, but yeah, he's definitely one that stands out for sure in a good and positive way.
yeah. Uh,
People tell me to write a book. Fuck you guys. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm gonna tell you to write the book. Look, I've been
No,
telling you to write the book for 2 years.
I'm joking because I know I need to write a book. I know I do. I've been told forever, and I
No,
want to.
I'm
I
just
want.
fucking with you because it's fun to fuck with
No,
you.
I was seeing it in the no, I know. I was seeing it in the comments, and I'm just being. I'm getting agitated.
Oh, Jimmy Ligon, he actually said he remembers Wayne computers, but he was in the Air Force, so that's probably why. Wayne had a big footprint in the military. That's where I learned it. Ben says, I know it's chic to hate billionaires these days, especially if they're not doing anything to help struggling communities. Something popped in for me, though. Vapid producing makes for purpose reducing. Damn. Ben, you went to the deep end of the pool on that one.
Yeah, that's another one. I'm gonna have to think about that for a minute. He makes you think. He's a deep thinker.
Yeah, he's a deep thinker. No doubt. Ben inspires me to think.
Hmm. Zig Ziglar. He mentions Earl Nightingale and Zig Ziglar. That's another one I forgot. Yeah,
Yep.
all those guys.
Yeah, I went to see Zig Ziglar at an Amway conference
Yeah,
back when I was doing
he
Amway.
was. Yeah, he was the Amway guy for sure. I think I saw him. I saw him. I don't think it was an Amway conference, but yeah, maybe it was. I didn't do Amway. I didn't do it.
You didn't do Amway?
Oh, I didn't. But I got drugged to stuff by people that wanted to get me into it.
Oh man, I was all in, man. Money leaking like a sieve.
I could see that. Yeah, I could see that. Can't say I never fell for one of those things. Not that you fell for Amway. I'm not saying that,
No,
but
I fell for it.
the
It's
typical
okay to say
pyramid, the typical pyramid schemes. Um, but I was one and done. I learned pretty quick.
no, man. I was hard headed, man. I think I went through 4 MLMs before I finally woke up and said, "Wait a minute, this is fucking Groundhog Day."
Uh, Daryl says, "Oh man, I just got my own list of bullshit excuses, sort of close to yours here in Talent." I'm telling you, there is something therapeutic and powerful and purging because there's something about externalizing that stuff.
Yeah,
And like if I were to tell you, Derek, and you would tell me, well, that's bullshit, and you'd couple it with encouragement, so that'd be good. But it's one thing for somebody else to tell you that's bullshit because you can get riled up and say, well, who the fuck do they think they are? You know what I
yeah,
mean? But when you write it out and you look at it and you're like, oh man, That's some bullshit right there.
Yeah.
There's just something about bringing it up and realizing this stuff that I've been letting govern me. And see, that's the problem. That's the problem. Like, if I don't want to write a book, it's going to be because I don't want to take the time from my family or other stuff that I want to be doing that I'd be getting more enjoyment out of, or I feel like I'd be making a better contribution if I gave my time to this rather than that, right? But I want it to be a conscious decision for my own good and my own benefit. I don't want it to be because I'm believing some bullshit excuse that I came up with in my head. Because at the end of the day, what you realize is that your governing frame, the mental frame that is controlling your behavior and the direction of your life, is bullshit. It's not founded on intentionality like you were talking about earlier. So when you get all that stuff up, then you can make a decision, but you're making a decision not from the basis of the bullshit you've been telling yourself in your head. You're making it from genuine desires that come from your heart.
Yeah.
And thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah. we need to close every show with that. Thanks for attending our TED Talk.
I like that. I like that better than peace and hair grease.
Yeah. But I think that if you wanted to do a webinar,
yeah,
you could do it. You could do a webinar about enumerating your excuses.
Mm.
And how, because here's the thing, right? A lot of times when we're dealing with shortcomings or internal challenges,
mm-hmm.
a lot of times we don't see them until we give a voice to them. They're there and we subconsciously know that they're there, but you took action and wrote them down.
Yeah.
I think that there's power in that, because once you see it, you say, okay, this is something that I know that I will concoct to excuse my lack of action.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying. I think people would pay money. I would pay money.
I like that.
I know you.
Yeah, you can get it for free. I genuinely like that idea. Thank you. I appreciate that. Daryl Carlson, another one for me. Gosh, I'm just getting all kinds of encouragement here tonight. He says, write the book and just make TikTok videos to promote it and sell it fast. Yeah, good idea. I need to get on TikTok. I had somebody.
Daryl's out there on TikTok and he's killing it.
Who is?
Daryl.
Are you really, Daryl?
Yeah, he's out there. Man. He's on TikTok, man. I try to catch all of his stuff.
You guys need to help me come up with a handle.
No, I mean, you just, your name as a handle. I think Daryl's is just his name. Mine is my name. Kyle is his name.
Okay. But I want the anonymity. Like, that's important to my happiness.
Yeah, but unless you're gonna wear a mask or something, man, people are gonna know who you are. They're gonna say, "Oh, that fucker's Aaron Tomlinson." Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah, we know that he's not really Long Dong 69.
Oh, come on, man! Now, are we talking TikTok or are we talking some other platform?
I'm just fucking with you, man.
No, I know. I appreciate it. All right. I guess I probably, on that note.
Yeah, so now you're gonna have to.
I don't know where this was. I'm sure you know about this, and I'm going totally off the rails. So if you have kids in the room, this is not the segment that you want them to hear. This is the not family friendly part that will probably get our video buried in the algorithms. But I was watching Twitter meltdown last night because everybody thought it wasn't coming back or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I got on this morning, and I don't know, this had to happen during the pandemic. You probably know all about this because this probably is some viral thing that I missed. But there's this video clip of this Zoom call, right? And it was some kind of business Zoom call, and you got like 2 or 3 guys, and you got like 9 women on there, and you got this guy, and he's grabbing a lotion bottle, and he's grabbing a tissue, and he's undoing his pants. And the ladies on the Zoom call are like, "Hey, dude, you need to turn off your video." Like somebody picked up on it right away. He grabbed some lotion and a tissue, and and they're trying to get his attention. So apparently he's not looking at his Zoom screen, and he's got the volume down or something, and he's watching porn during this Zoom.
Oh my God.
This Zoom meeting, and the caption was, "She knew what time it was." All right, I had too much whiskey, but that was in response to the comment. So anyway, with that, thanks for coming to our TED Talk.